Part-Time Hitter is brought to you by Friendly Forces, a 501c3 nonprofit committed to helping reserve component members seamlessly integrate their military service with rewarding civilian careers. We connect them with employers who value their unique skills and critical role in national security and advise organizations how to become more reservist-friendly. Check them out at www.friendlyforces.org. Friendly Forces is also brought to you by the Fratty Guard, a lifestyle brand for part-time hitters. Check them out at www.thefrattyguard.com and on Instagram at @thefrattyguard. This episode of Part-Time Hitter is brought to you by Emerald Technical Solutions. Check them out at emeraldsolutions.tech. Welcome to another episode of the Part-Time Hitter podcast, brought to you by Friendly Forces and the Fratty Guard. I am your host, Eric Evans, and today I am here with Dondre Lawson, who is a senior operations sergeant in the Maryland National Guard. He's also the CEO at Emerald Technical Solutions and the founder of Defense Interns. I was also looking at your LinkedIn, seem to be a board member. You're always getting honored and getting awards and going to galas, and I'm like, I need to get on this guy's level, man. Whatever this guy's doing, I need to start learning some lessons here. So thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here and my story and tell a story about, how I've gotten here or to where I'm at today, and hopefully other people can take it and run with it.
For sure, man. My big thing is there's so much opportunity coming from active duty military, but especially in the Guard and Reserve, to like leverage what the military Guard and Reserve can give you in terms of training and your personal and professional networks, and just using that to kind of optimize a civilian career. And I know a lot of people who are able to do that very well, but the vast majority of them don't. It's like they haven't figured out how to do it. So I'm a big proponent of highlighting people like yourself who just seem to be crushing it in all aspects. So I think that's awesome. So I guess to start out, I mentioned you're now a senior NCO in the Maryland National Guard. So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you end up in the Maryland Guard? What are you doing there? How long are you going to stay in? Just talk to me.
I've been in the Guard for 13 and a half years. Joined when I was like 18 and a half. I might have been 19. There was a Guard recruiter, there was a Marines recruiter, and then there was like a little bit down the road, there was a active duty recruiter. And when you're 18 and you don't have anybody else that's telling you like what you should be doing or this is a good option, started to weigh my options about what was different. And the Guard at the time was starting to up how they were attracting people and saying, hey, like we can pay for your school, you can get clearance, you can do all these things. And my recruiter, the recruiters in the state of Maryland are very persistent. So, I ended up in the Guard, went away to basic training, went to my AIT, been doing IT stuff the entire time. So I didn't have like a midlife crisis and decided that I wanted to be a nerd. I've been a nerd since day one. Went into the Guard as a 25 uniform, and then, came home, started working. I was doing system administrative work for a pharmaceutical company for a while and helping run a warehouse there, just kind of working there while I was going to school. Got my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and master's degree from being in the Guard for free. So that, that's been the GI Bill helped with the master's degree. Ended up, really focusing on my time with the Guard and now trying to help other people with their career and say, things that they could do and change. I think everybody gets to a point, especially guard people, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've deployed with the Guard, I've utilized the benefits from the Guard, I've done everything that I can do for myself. But then when you get to a certain point, you're like, I think it's time to get back to this organization, right? So then, you sign another 6-year contract, and now you're a NCO or you're a senior officer, and you're helping out soldiers, junior enlisted, junior officers, try to figure out what they need to do, right? So you can see the organization continue to grow and see people continue to blossom. And that's where I'm at right now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, sometimes I wish I'd enlisted much earlier. I wasn't quite one of those guys who had a midlife crisis and joined, but I was fairly old. I joined at 26. But sometimes I think, man, if I joined at 18, like I wouldn't have that many more years to go before I hit that 20 years. You said you enlisted 25 uniform. Is that what is that? Is that a
This is a support specialist.
signal?
Yeah. Your hand 250s, RT-1523s, Prick 173s, HF, RF, cows. I mean, there's a lot of different methods to talk to people outside of picking up your phone, right? It's really that baseline level of connection that a lot of people don't really rely on anymore because there's satellite, there's all these cool high speed tools you can use. So did that, and then um, I went into like doing what I do now, and then the schoolhouse out of Fort Gordon awarded me the 25 Bravo MOS, which is pretty cool because I didn't have to go to school. I sent the packet and submitted it, and then they came back and said, "Hey, we're going to award you this
Oh,
MOS." And that's what I was trying to
oh,
strategically figure out how to get promoted. Right? That was cool from them. Shout out to Fort Gordon and the schoolhouse.
I think it's sport.
Oh,
But until it gets switched back, which who knows what's gonna happen. But did you have a
yeah.
plan when you joined? Like probably not because you were pretty young, but you didn't say, I'm gonna do
No,
this, I'm gonna do
no,
that. Just kind
zero.
of
No mentor, no plan, no one saying do X, Y, and Z. Absolutely not. I joined because when I joined originally, I was kind of looking for a way out of my situation that I was in, and didn't have a lot of money, didn't know how I was going to pay for school, knew I wanted to go to school because while society tells you that you need to have education to make good money, or you need to go to college to make good money, which isn't true, right? You can money doing other things, other legal things. So I joined and it kind of just, I would say, like it felt like dominoes. Like I would complete one thing and then something else will pop up, be like, hey, you should go do this. And it wasn't just one mentor along the way. There was a bunch of different kind of like stages of a video game that I went through where it was like, hey, you reached this point, you should go do this thing now. And you know a lot of people don't like there's so many opportunities in any guard that you can utilize as a person, the human. You can come in out of high school and you can utilize these benefits, right? One of our old or our current actually one of our current defense interns is going she graduates from high school with an associate's degree, and then she's going to go into the guard. So she'll go away to basic training over the summer. She'll come back, and then she'll be a dual SMP candidate at whatever college she chooses in the state of Maryland. She'll be a second lieutenant at 2021, right? That's crazy,
oh
right?
wow.
And we kind of said, this makes a lot of sense. Go do this, but she still has to make a path like after that. There's still gonna be people like, hey, you should do this next. You should do that next. I know that there's people that go join the guard and are like, or they go to the military like, I'm going to infantry. I'm going to be a Cav Scout. I'm going to get school. I'm going to air assault school. I want to be a tab. I want a ranger tab. I want to jump. Well, they don't do it, but I want a jungle badge. And this is the type of career that I want. And as long as I can stay alive and go through that career, when I get to the end, I have a really cool look, a great career. And somewhere along that line, you have to start thinking about your transition, especially if you're active duty, right? I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know what I didn't know what an airborne was, or being, I didn't know any of that. And it's I think a lot of people just lose focus on what they think they should be doing versus what they can do because of what someone's telling them what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing too is like it's pretty easy to get jaded with the guard and reserve based on a variety of factors and just kind of mentally check out as a lot of people do. But if you're not like a turd, they're like you don't even have to be a rock star. If you just do the right things and show up and show that you care, like people will throw opportunities at you. It's like, oh, you want to go to this school? You want to go do this? You want to go in this like overseas TDY thing to Europe to do this? Like if you show up and you're smart and you give a damn, like there's just so much opportunity there. But yeah, it's easy to sort of like I said, get checked out. I came back from deployment, and I was actually pretty close to getting out myself. I was kind of over it. Was in a fairly stressful unit, fairly stressful deployment, and I managed to find a new position because I was in the Maryland Guard too. Actually, I didn't mention that for like 10 years. That's how I know it's stressing. But he I was able to find a position that I want that kept me in, and then since then I've found some other things, and yeah, it's all about like finding kind of that next thing you wanna that next hill to climb, and just using those opportunities and parlaying them into the next thing. I liked what you said too about I know you said you didn't have a plan, but I think the more people can have a plan about how to like best use the military, and again, a lot of people coming in are young and like no one does that. But like I said, I joined late, and I knew exactly what I wanted to get out of it. And I was able to basically make that happen. I knew joining the Guard would get me a clearance. I could use that to get into government contracting. From there, I got a top secret, and then I was able to do different things. And basically worked out exactly how I wanted to. And I think if you can map out that plan and stick to it, like yeah, the opportunity will come, man. So you're still enthusiastic about the Guard. You're not jaded yet. You're not thinking
I
about getting
was.
out
I ran
anytime.
into a lot of people run into. At 12 years, I was the same rank for a while, and I had did what I needed to do to get to the next rank, and it wasn't happening. Wasn't the guards? A lot of people don't understand, but the guard is more difficult to get promoted in than the active duty because you can get anywhere active duty. I could be the best ranked person in my MOS from day one through the end of my career. I went to all the schools, I did all the PME classes, I have all the badges, I have the deployments, I have all the medals. And every year I go and then I go to a board and I'm good at boards and I promote. In the guard, you could only aviation unit in the state and you gotta someone has to move you around in order for you to get promoted. So for me, I hit a wall. Like, in business, I had already made a good amount of money that same year that I was like, I can't do this anymore. And my mind was like,
Mm.
why are you staying here? Right? You literally work for the army as a civilian or as a contractor, the owner of the business. What are you doing? And it wasn't until I started talking to a sergeant major that really, kind of opened my eyes and was like, this is where your career could go if you want to do extra, things outside of your out of normacy. And I started doing that, and now I see it, right. I see why people get like those aha moments like teachers have when they teach someone something and they go do it and they're like, see, that's kind of where I'm at right now with my time in the guard. I have about 6-ish years left, so we'll see what over the
Yeah, man. That's why I'm not envious of like the enlisted promotion system and how it works, particularly on the officer side, at least up until I don't know, major or something. You pretty much just it's an automatic promotion. You don't go before a board. It's like whatever, and it just yeah. I would always see soldiers kind of complaining about the promotion process, and in the guard too. There's a lot of what should we call it? Favorites get played, and there's that game going on with promotions and that kind of stuff too, where it's like I can tell that jades a lot of
Yeah,
soldiers.
in the state of Maryland,
Um,
they cracked down on right. The boards the boards at the state level, the different things, the different organization or different people that are at the organization of like, hey, this is the process. Like Eric beat Dondre, and Eric belongs in that position. He will get promoted in that position. We know Dondre is great. We know he has his own business. We know that he might actually be better to do the job than Eric, but Eric beat him, right? And Eric did everything he was supposed to do. So we're going to move Eric into that role. That is changed because it's hard. Hard. Like you got your PT, you got weapons call, you got schools, you got your P. Well, your P was your PME. They're trying to figure that out now, and then you PT tests or APFTs, and then or excuse me ACFTs, and then just other things too, like NCOERs, all that stuff plays or OERs plays into getting promoted. But then the worst part is that there is a limited amount of positions for the position you're trying to promote in, right? And that compared to,
Right.
oh, if I'm active duty, I'm going to go to the 10th Mountain, I'm going to New York, or maybe I want to go to California. Maybe, there's a bunch of different places. And you PCS, you move somewhere else. But here, it's different. Now, even the process like IST, like if I wanted to go to another state, if I'm like, hey, that state has a vacancy over there, can someone move me? Like I'm gonna move my family there, or we live close enough to that state border wise, I can go over there. That process also isn't as streamlined as it should be, but the state doesn't want to lose people, right? At the end of the day, as well.
So what would your be for somebody who's either about to thinking about joining the guard, or maybe is like junior enlisted, junior NCO, even junior officer, just kind of existing there and isn't really making the most of it? Are there particular like MOSs, branches that they should get into? I guess it depends on what they want to do, but certain things set you up
I
better
would
civilian wise.
talk to a group of mentors, not one person, because that one person is going to be biased. Someone asks me, how do I want to go into IT, what should I do? I'm going to tell you exactly what I did because I have a pretty good life, right? At least I think I have a pretty good life. But I could be wrong. It could have changed, right? It could be different now. When I joined, I don't know, 13 years ago, right? I think having a group of mentors and how you stack the mentors is when you get you and like you'll see people that interact with you that are wait outrank the crap out of you, and they interact with you because they want to learn about you, know about you. You stack your mentors in a way of like, let's call it stacking mentors. Like Eric is 2 ranks ahead of me. John Stressing is 4 ranks ahead of me. Dondre is a sergeant major, right? He's up here. Like, I'm going to talk to each of them and see, because they're all in my MOS chain, and see what each person has done to get to where they are today, both civilian and non civilian, if they can help, and then learn from that. That's the best thing that anyone can do. Like, sure, you can go so that's one piece. The second piece is if you want to join the military, and if people are coming into the military and they're like, I want to join, they're coming in to serve their country, right? Which is everyone, like, you're a soldier first or you're an infantryman first, right? Everyone knows how to shoot, move, communicate, and kill. That's what you do first, but then your job and the things you do after. So if people are going, I want to join the military, you're going to serve your country, but your recruiter, this is a message to recruiters, they absolutely there has to be a path in the plan for the MOS group, and that doesn't. I
Mhm.
don't think that happens. I could be misspeaking, but if I go in as a 25 uniform or 25 Bravo, if I go in as a signal person, what does the career path look like for me as a signal person, right? I know they have like the MS, the cool, they had the in the day, and then they have there's another site where like there's another site that tells you like this is what you need to do to hit the rank, right? But it's just talking in a rank aspect of like how do I make it to sergeant major? What do I have to do, right? But we're talking of okay, if I'm an E5 and I have a top secret security clearance, I just passed my security plus, I just graduated from Towson University with a bachelor's degree. Where should I look for a job? You don't
Like
know about Fort Meade, you don't know about Aberdeen Proving Grounds. If you're single, go to Northern Virginia and stay there and go down to Nova. Like those are other things that people must understand when going to the military, especially in the guard, because you don't want to go away and then come and have no plan, you know?
Yeah, man, that's really interesting you say that. So I was working at the Pentagon for a bit, and I actually sort of came up with that exact idea. So we were still are going through a recruiting crisis, right? And it's like if I were the Army, what I would do is say, all right, for 25 uniform, you're enlisting that. Here's your for what you're going to do with that once you get in. You're going to do it. You're going to go to AIT. Then by year 2, you'll have your whatever, your security plus. And the next thing you'll do is this. And you show them not just in a military aspect, but outside of that, civilian side, this is what you should be doing to optimize the training and the skills that we've given you, both to be a better asset in the military and if you're getting out to go out and crush it. And then saying, and yeah, you know, Fort Meade, a lot of jobs for guys with these skill sets and these certs. So if you're getting out at 5 years, you should have this done. And letting these younger people know up front, these should be your like 25, 50 meter, 100-meter targets. So you don't just join and then kind of, get mixed up with your buddies and sort of before you know it, you haven't really accomplished anything and like your time's over or you're still in
Right.
10 years later and you have no
Some people
shit.
want to say, I want to join and I want to see, I want me to see the world, right? I want to go that route of, I'm joining the infantry or being a Cav Scout, and I'm going down that path, and that's what I want to do. I want to go and blow shit up for for a short sense and jump out of airplanes, and that's fine. That's perfectly okay. But those skills you learn from those things also correlate to really high grossing, high paying jobs in the civilian world, right? My buddy, infantry guy, he's still in. He runs protective agency business service. I mean, they protect some pretty high profile people, and he's doing what he loves, right? And he hired other people to do it with him. So it would be great if the army come out for, or excuse me, I mean, I guess it would be the army, but career counselor could come out and say, here's what you could do in the guard, and those target meter target, you're a sergeant major or you're 07, 06, your TF top secret clearance, you're at a master's level or PhD level, and you're a GS-15, right? Or you're a contractor and you're making 200,000 a year, right? And this is the path for success, right? And we're going to give you the sauce and hope you get to the 12 year time. Like, okay, my life is better because of the guard. Do I stay in to try to make other people's lives better? What do I do? Right.
Right.
Even for us, I've hired 5 people from the guard, right? From the Maryland Guard. All of those hires have been great, right? Because those people are already set. They already know what they're supposed to do. They're aware. They're going to show up at the right place. They know how to talk to customers. They have all the skills they need, right? I'm not dealing with, not saying civilian.
Well, they know you'll smoke them on drill
Correct.
weekend too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I really like. That would be my advice to someone. You gotta have a, and there's more like back. I mean, the internet was still around 2012, but like you probably could go ask ChatGPT, I want to go do this. What should I do? And source information. There's a bunch of military memes groups. There's a bunch of people with information that I say, this is what I would do. But don't take everything that I'm saying and go do it. Go get some other information too, because that could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point. If you're like a super high speed like infantry dude, probably not going to be able to, start or make a great career in like, I don't know, IT. I mean, you still probably could, but you might not because it's not in your skill set. That doesn't mean there's a number of things you can do using that skill set that you do have if you, understand how to like optimize it. So something I used to see in my old engineer unit was had some really, really skilled like plumbers, guys like that who do like this really, really good custom work. And like where I live, like in Falls Church, Virginia, I mean, people are paying tens of thousands of dollars for the type of stuff that these guys can do, like real like trade skills. And these guys had those skills; they could go do it. What they didn't have was the ability to translate that into like a successful, business. Which if they had that, they could have really, really done something awesome. But it was like they didn't know how to take what they had and like monetize it essentially. It seems like you have been able to do a really good job with that in your career. I mean, you founded a company, you founded a defense intern. So I'm always curious, like, so you have this IT background, you got school done, you're in the guard. At what point did you say I'm gonna do it on my own? I'm gonna start my own company, and like, how did you
Yeah,
even know what to
I still
do?
don't know what to do. Yeah,
Hey, fake it till you make it, man.
it's every day is different. As a business owner, you learn, you adapt, you try to overcome, you get screwed over, you don't get screwed over. You have big wins, you have small wins, you have losses, but more losses than wins. I feel like I've always been a leader in a sense of like, and like quick leading, like, all right, let's go knock this town real quick. Let's go do this thing. I was assistant engineer for CACI, and I was working on like 4 projects all at the same time. And A couple people were like, "Man, you should start a business." I'm like, "No, that's crazy. I'm not doing that." And didn't know about any of the. If I could take my body now and go back to when we kicked off, it'd be we would right. But that's anyone. I wish I could go back 10 years and do
Sure.
things different. I think
Sure.
learning and adapting has been really good. Like just trying to figure out like what to do next, and no mentors. I have not to this date, even now, I have not had any mentors. There's been no one like guiding me, telling me like, hey, go do this, go do that. Maybe down the road get like a business mentor, right? Because business and sales is sales, right? Like people can sell you, AC services or sell you IT services or sell you whatever carpentry services. It's sales, right? I think it like the moons a lot, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And in the height of COVID, I quit my job and started working. Actually, it was right before. It was like a couple weeks before it started, and I had gotten a 1099 job under Emerald, working for the RCAS FMS office out of Fort Belvoir. And COVID hit. COVID hit like the week after I started. Like everyone's a remote person. I made a lot of mistakes from that time, and I'm still correcting things. But I think that it like everyone who has started a business get this thing. They get in their head and they're like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna move with as much force as I can." But when people start businesses and they sell them and then they go start another one, those are the. I mean, it's the percentage of people who sell their second business or have successful second businesses, it's super high because you've already in the field, you know what you're supposed to be doing, what you're not supposed to be doing. So it's kind of it's very weird. It's a very like the first week, I think or the first month I got my first check, it was like triple or almost quadruple what I made as a W-2
That's
employee,
awesome.
right, to the company. And, I had already saved, I think when I left, I had like 300K in the bank. And I was like, well, I have enough money to start a business, right? Which kind of has helped with like cushioning moving forward. But it no one can prepare you for it. The same way when you get moved into a new role in the military, you don't know what to expect. You get trained and you might have some people helping you, but ultimately, like if you move into a position as a commander, you're the person, you're creating your command policy. You're creating the forethought into, the forward thinking for all your troops. And that's the that I can make in that aspect of it happened, and here we are. We're stuck.
So, what does Emerald Technical Solutions do? And is your plan to keep building it out, or to eventually, get it acquired and move
I
on to
want
the
to
next?
keep building it out. I mean, we right now we're doing cloud engineering, and that's in like the migration and implementation sections. So you don't you're trying to on-premise environment into the cloud, working with some DoD customers on that effort. Cybersecurity, so ATOs, RMF, EMAS packages, or environment hardening, information assurance, digital infrastructure wizards, right? Like I can build infrastructure out with, physical equipment and allow people to securely access it from anywhere, you know, over a robust
Hmm.
front facing website for people to access, right? Be it CAC or two-factor authentication. We can do big data. We're working on some AI tools right now as well. One of those AI tools is for transitioning military members. So, for me,
That's cool.
it's like I if someone the other day like, hey, what's your goal? What are you chasing? I really want to be known as like that person, that one National Guard troop that went and did some absolutely phenomenal, crazy stuff and built some things, some really cool things the military use today, right? More of a building a legacy, not just for me, like the whole company, like all of the team members that's responsible for the day-to-day operations and all the team members that's with some of our customers. I think that's really the vision. I mean, sure, there are people that build companies to sell, right? Now private equity firms will come in and buy the company from you, but then what am I
Yeah.
supposed to do after that? Play golf? and I'm bad at golf. So I have a, I love cooking. So, maybe down the road, 10, 15 years, I open a food truck and do that. But I think, it can be, it's always weird, but, Emerald Technical Solutions is, we're digital infrastructure people, right? Like, and if we can't figure it out, like internally, we know someone that can figure it out. We just try to be as quick and as robust for customers as we possibly can be with delivering some of our IT solutions to them.
In case anyone listening has those skills and is looking for a job in where are you based, by the way? Where's the company? I guess
No,
primarily in the Mead area
we're in
or
Happy
kind of all
Grace,
around the.
so Happy Grace, Maryland. So we are mainly like a lot of our customers are mainly in Aberdeen Proving Ground. And we have a couple remote customers and a couple commercial
Mhm.
customers. But if someone wants to, honestly, this sounds crazy, but you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and if there's an opportunity that we think we can fit you in, right, and we have your resume, we will call you, especially if you're a veteran, right? I want to hire veterans. Not saying that I can't hire other people, but we like we had a guy, Navy guy, just busting his chops, like, oh, the Navy, why would you do that? But obviously, I'm joking, and we do work with the Navy. We have a bunch of work over there with the Navy, and it's been good. But especially if you're looking for something, I have a bunch of partners and people that post jobs a lot too, so they might be looking, or they might have as well for you. So it just depends on the really the day.
Well, you could
Yeah,
see
yeah,
me
yeah.
initially though, right? When you were setting a business, did you use any resources like VA type stuff or anything that's like set up to help veterans start
No, and
businesses?
that was kind of bothered me, or bothers me now, because I had already, like, we set the business up. We had subcontracts. We had facility clearance, right, which allows me to hold people's clearances and or put people in for clearances if I need to. And we were working, right. I didn't know about, and I'm gonna give some drop some names. Right? I didn't know about the NBSBC, which is the National Veterans Small Business Coalition. Didn't know about NAVOBA, right, which is another national association of veteran-owned small businesses. I didn't know about the IVMF, which is the Institute for Veteran and Military Families. Wasn't sure about VIP, so Veterans in Business, and then VIP, which I think Veterans in Procurement, or Veterans in another veteran in business company or organization. And all these organizations give you information as a business owner, on how to do business, right? Finances, legal information, marketing information on how to track work. I mean, there's people walking around those conferences that have done 100 to half $1 billion money in sales. Somebody sold for $200 million. Laura Weiner met her. Lauren Weiner met her. A bunch of people that have made the Inc. 5000, people in the Net 100 list. Like, folks are actually working and doing it, and you don't know, right? Like, if there's a business owner out there right now and they have the next best, a veteran business owner that has the next best cutting edge AI tool available, and you don't know what to do, remember this: NBSBC, number one; IVMF, number two; NAVOBA, number three; and Veterans in Business, number four; and then VIP. And there's also accelerator programs, there's BOSB programs, and understand the federal trends behind veteran-owned small businesses and service disabled owned small businesses, right? Like, the percentage went from 3 to 5% of all federal contracting spending dollars have to go to service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, right? If you're starting a company,
Right.
that's good information to have, right? And I didn't know any of nothing, zero, right? So then when I showed up to some of these
And it,
events,
it
people
can
were like, "You already have all this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah." So now we're just kind of at the point where we're like, "I'm just looking for work. Like, I'm looking to team. I'm looking to deliver some technical excellence to some, and go from there."
a good area, man. I mean, every client, everywhere I work, they seem to need everything that you're currently doing. So it's a good area to be in. Yeah, you mentioned all the veteran sort of support groups, and dude, there's almost too many of them. It's almost overwhelming. Like there's so many out there that it's like I need to sift through the ones that are going to be like of the most value for what I'm trying to do. And then you also touched on like the networking aspect. Even if you don't like sell somebody or enter into a business transaction, just having that network and going to these events and meeting other veterans, other entrepreneurs, and learning from them and having them connect you to other people is just like such a massive part of being successful. And I mentioned I see you seem to be involved in a number of like organizations kind of outside of the army, outside of your day-to-day job, that I imagine are like pretty helpful with that. Can you talk about sort of some of these other things you're doing? You can talk about defense interns. Definitely want to hear more
Yeah,
about that.
so defense interns, we had a kind of public schools through the Maryland apprenticeship program, and that young lady was amazing. I had the same way I talked about having different mentors. I had an idea and said, what does it look like if we can get different organizations to rotate the same intern through their business, right? Because I do business differently than you do, than other people do. So the interns rotate through right now through 4 different defense contractors each quarter throughout their senior year. And they graduate from the program when they also graduate from high school. The students are sourced from Harford County Public Schools. So last year we got 68 resumes of students that were looking for a job, right? And it's front office stuff, it's compliance, it's helping with documentation, it might be integrating some Microsoft Azure, Intune policies to endpoint devices. And these young adults can do it. 17 years old, 18 years, they can do it, right? And a lot of people are like, those kids are good for getting coffee and good for running the Target and doing like errands. Like they're not, right? They're very smart individuals. Some of the students already have Security Plus, right? They're coming into the program and they graduate through their high school program. They graduate with associate's degrees when they graduate high school. So there's always like a issue um, that people complain about. Oh, there's nobody for these low hanging fruit jobs where we're supposed to find these people, and they're literally in your neighborhood. And the program I think has been absolutely successful. Our partners love the interns that rotate through their businesses, and they're all fairly happy about how it's working, right? And we had to make it a nonprofit business, right? Because we wanted anyone that donated money to it to get a tax, and we're helping their money's back into the community, right? We don't make any money off of it. It's for the kids to get experience, learn something. I can give job experience out, right? Like you can come work for us, you can learn things, and that counts as actual job experience compared to you go to college, you're looking for an internship, you don't find one, and now you're stuck, or you're in this weird scenario where you don't necessarily know what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be going. That is an issue. Like this is actually like it's like a passion project of mine because I didn't have mentors growing up. I didn't have people saying, do this, learn this networking, learn this cloud stuff, learn how to do, X, Y, and Z. That wasn't in the company. And these students are really smart. Like the last group of kids built a VR tool for us, right? Like and they're 18 because they understand they
That
grew up in
sounds
the, I
like
had a tablet in my hand phase, right? When we grew up in the, oh, I had a
right,
Nokia brick phone and I could only make calls after 9 o'clock because it was free. And like
right.
in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, right? Like that's where we grew up at. And our parents, they didn't know what cell phones were when they were growing up. Someone had to pay in order to reach them, and they had to run to a, what do you call it, payphone, right? You had to go to a payphone
Payphone or
and
something.
make a phone call. So these students are, we got kids that are talking about they're helping with AI algorithms, or do they know what recursive algorithms are to build AI tools? They're 18. Like that's where the world's going today, and people have to realize and understand that.
I mean, dude, that's amazing. I didn't my first internship till after college, and it's kind of that catch-22 where it's like you can't get a job if you don't have experience, and I didn't have any like real experience other than like kind of bullshit summer jobs. So to be able to have that coming out of high school would be like such an insane leg up, especially doing some of the stuff that these companies are doing. Is there any plans to like expand it from
So
just
we
that one
need,
school?
and I think next year will be good because the program kicks off in July every year because we do an onboarding over the summer and then it ends right at June. We need, it's a one-to-one relationship. So we need more defense contractors that want to come in and play, right?
Mm,
And pick a student up, get a rotation, and grab some kids, right? To work with additional defense contractors in order to do that. But a lot of defense contractors care about revenue, and they're like, "Well, I donated, $20,000 over the year to golf tournaments that helped raise money for charitable contributions to education systems. So I did my part. That's what they do.
do the
They do get
interns get
paid.
paid or is
It's
it unpaid?
paid, and we have partnerships
Oh,
with
hell
some other organizations that also help those interns get certifications.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'd really like to help kind of spread that basically that message about this because I feel like that's like that's just like an amazing program. I wish something like
Yeah,
that
me
had been
too.
around like when I was coming up. Take advantage of it
Yeah,
though
even
at that
even
age.
it's like you have a enlisted troop, right? That junior officer, someone has to talk to them, right? Take them under their wing and say, hey, you should do that. It's like it's at different levels of mentorship that they get, right? Like we have a company in the rotation service engineer for 350 people. Their organization is a lot different than mine, a lot different than some of the other people. But you get the interns get a different aspect of how everything needs to be and should be working, while they're in that rotation.
Yeah, man. I mean, that sounds awesome. So you said you have what 4 or 5
It's
companies that
4
are
companies
participating right
right
now?
now.
Okay. Yeah, anything I can do to help try and get more companies on board because I mean, yeah, like I said, that sounds like a pretty awesome program,
We made
man.
the news. We made Z, so it was that was cool. That was pretty cool. Jay Z, they're awesome too. They're reporters, camera, great people. We hope that over this next 2 years and companies, they have a lot of companies have their own internship program. They're like, we're okay. We get interns from the local college or something like that, but no one's taking them
Right.
and rotating them through different businesses and saying do X, Y, and Z. Right. That's the difference of, hey, my interns have a year of experience from 4 defense contractors. Some of them have Security Plus, and some of them graduate with an associate's degree from college. If they're not employable, there is a bigger issue here. There's a larger problem. So
Right. Yeah, man. No, that's amazing. And sort of in that same vein, we talked about this a bit earlier, but you have kind of a unique perspective in that you're both a guardsman and a business owner. So I think you've seen kind of the both sides of the coin, the pros and cons probably of what that looks like. Being a guardsman and being an employee of a company, but also trying to run a company and hiring, reservists who from time to time do need to leave to fulfill their military obligations. So, what are your thoughts on that, and how have you handled that as a
I
business
think
owner?
if you are a business owner and you are for hiring veterans, you need to do it all the way, right? That means if someone has to go away for 2 weeks, if they're going to NTC for a month, if they're deploying, you figure it out, right? No one wants to lose revenue. No business owner in the history of business owners want to lose revenue. Nobody, right? So if you leave for a year, I have to replace you. Like I'm not. We can't. We have to fill a position, especially in a contract. Like I don't have a choice. We need
Right.
to find that person, or we're going to lose that position, which means we're going to lose revenue. And everyone has to understand that, right? That's step one. Step two is, as a business owner, I need to be projecting. I need to have, like if we're talking about sports, I know you're on the bench, and I know that you'll be back in a year. I need to be working my butt off to ensure that we are targeting opportunities that when you come back in the year, you'll be able to fill one of those positions, right? That's how you do it. Large companies don't have to worry about it because they have an abundance of
Right.
open
Right.
jobs. They have tens of thousands of open jobs, right? So they're like, oh yeah, there's this position. It's remote. You got to travel to Colorado some days. You got to travel to California some months. like, is this okay for you? And yeah, it's fine. But for small, this is really a small business question, right? For small businesses, if you're talking about, I
Right.
want to be for veterans, I want to hire veterans, when they come back from a deployment or they're on their way back, you should be targeting work, even if it's like a year and a half out, maybe 2 years out, relay that to that person and say, hey, I know you're going to come back from deployment, we can start you off doing this role on this date, right? And be proactive about it for the positions. I see a lot of people, they deploy, they come back, and they're like, yeah, like it actually happened to me, right? I came home from a deployment, I went back to this company, and I went back. My job was changed. I was doing something different. I was doing like financial like I was inputting numbers into a system for product, and I'm like, I don't do this. It's not my job. I don't even this isn't my job. This is
Right.
different. And so, I ended up leaving, right? And being able to go work for the government, but it was different. It changed because they weren't prepared, equipped to bring me back into that situation as to where I was working. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. So for me as a business owner, like right now, if somebody left, if one of those people left that could be deployed or whatever, we have to and say it's my responsibility to make
Right.
sure that we have options for that person when they return. Now, if we want a big contract or something like that, it's hard because if you bid on something and it's 20 positions, you got to fill all 20 positions. If I go to the customer, maybe,
Right.
and I go, I pay this last position 20, I these other 19, but that 20th position, I'm willing to lose money on it, for the next 3 months. Don't worry, the work will still be though, but I really need to hold this position for someone that's coming back from a deployment. If they work in DoD, I would hope that the people will go, okay, like all right,
Right.
like this is a soldier or marine, people coming back. I would hope and pray to God that they would say, all right, that works, as long as you guys can complete the work that other position would have been doing or to kick off, that's fine. And we appreciate you being transparent with us and trying to put a veteran back in the workforce, right? Because there's a bunch of different statistics where it leads, like veterans not finding jobs after deployments, homelessness, suicide rates, like you know uh, alcoholism. Like there's a lot of things that correlate to not having employment when you come back out of theater, especially depending on what type of you were on. Right, it could be rough.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the more unique challenges among like the Guard and Reserve versus active duty, where it's we kind of go in and out of military service, and that can make holding down like a gainful job career a lot more difficult. It's not like active duty where you're in the military and then you're out, and that's pretty much it. You kind of have to, struggle with balancing the two. I'd really like to see to help small businesses where would be like more tax to basically help small businesses, stay afloat during those times, reward them for hiring guardsmen and reservists and making sure, to some capacity that they're not losing money when those people they hired then are deployed or whatever it may be. So I'm hoping to see more of that. I've seen some pending legislation, but last I heard it, I feel like it's just, sitting in some committee somewhere and probably
Yeah, and
won't
that's
pass.
and go ahead.
I think the other important I was going to say the other aspect of it is I think, and this even applies to like big businesses, is yeah, if I'm like a team manager and I lose one person from my like whatever 6-person team, yeah, that's going to make my life probably harder for that period of time. But depending on the industry, like the experience and the that person, whether they're training or deployed, that they're going to be able to bring back could actually pay back like dividends to that company. And then the other point I like to touch on is that, at the end of the day, we're serving in the place of other people in this country who can't or won't serve, right? I mean, being able to deploy, whether it's like to Kuwait or Afghanistan or on a ship somewhere in the Pacific, that's necessary to keep kind of the status quo in place, keep stability, keep the economic, American economic machine going. And if people aren't doing that, then that becomes everybody's problem, pretty quickly. So I think it's important that employers recognize that and that somebody has to go do this. And if they're not doing it, like maybe you're going to have to go do it at some point. So I think that
Yeah,
gets
and
lost
that's,
sometimes.
everybody loves to joke and go, "Oh, the part-time warriors, the nasty girls, and blah blah blah." And it's like, look at my life compared to your life as a person that is like, hey, you need to be here, you need to belong in this place, you need to do these things. You're told what to do your entire the whole the most of the time you're in that status, right? In that active status. People come home, people can deploy in 4 years out of a 5 year time frame, right? Like I'm sure someone's leadership will be like, hey, you sure you want to go? Like, are you positive? But then at the same time, you're like, I have to figure out how to reintegrate continuously after keep coming back home and then keeping a job and then balancing all these other things on top of not just going back to work when I leave work, right? I come home, I go on my R&R, I'm off for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'm back at my unit doing my job. There's nothing wrong with that, but comparably to the guard, it's difficult. It can be really difficult for people that go in and out of that transition, right? Switching from an M-Day troop to an active duty troop and then coming home and looking for a job, right? I've seen where someone's come home, they were home for 6 months and they got deployed again, right? And they got to leave the job, they got to say bye to everybody. There's a going away party. You got to have one at the job, have only your family, and then you come back. That's nerve wracking, right? On top of everything else someone's dealing with internally in the brain before they go deploy. So that is, it can be hard. It's more difficult for guard troops, especially if you're coming back home to work, like to employment, to pay your bills. Because once that active duty money, checks start rolling in, you got to pay your bills, right?
Yeah, man, and it's not just the service member. I mean, it's their families as well that are dealing with this, especially if you're the head of a household, you have a spouse and kids. So it's I mean, the other part of it is, and the guard knows this, is that it's a and military readiness issue. Having people who are unemployed within the guard means they're not able to job a lot of times as guardsmen. They don't have a car. They're homeless. They can't get they have medical issues that are going untreated. So then when they're needed, they're not able to perform in that capacity. So having them with like gainful civilian employment is important for them to even just to be able to serve in the guard. So it's really a partnership between everybody.
Absolutely.
Well, let's see. We're coming up on an hour here, Dondre. Really fascinating discussion. You've obviously done some really impressive things. A great example of like really how to take the military and make something out of it and go off, take a risk, build a business, help rise through the ranks and help other service members, sort of rise up. So really want to thank you for coming on. And do you have any sort of, closing thoughts or pieces of advice for the listeners out there or anything else you want to
I
touch
would
on?
just say if you're 18 and you're about joining the military, make sure you source as much information as you can and talk with your recruiter. They should know, especially if they're Maryland Guard recruiters, they're going to know, right, about what you should be doing and what your path looks like. Don't think about it in a year, like me, like don't think what you're going to get out of it in a year or two. Think about where you're going to be at in 10 years, right? And if you're 18, that's only 28, right? You'll still be super young, but you'll be halfway done your career. And you could have obtained a clearance. You could have gotten your education paid for. You probably deployed. You probably got to see another part of the world. You served your country. And if you're coming in or excuse me, if you're already in and you're thinking about, hey, maybe I need to get out, just look at all avenues of approach, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm making way too much money. I got to get out. And I'll tell you, like that
Mhm.
was yeah, that
And
year for me when I thought about I was going to get out and I didn't, right? Unless, of course, you hit the lottery where you go fight Jake Paul in a ring and you have to, you 20 million, then you should probably get out. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
in a fight for
But
sure.
outside of that, if you're in, you're out. If you have issues with employment, the ESGR is a great resource for you. Sarah also look at the law and figure out if you work in IT, there's an abundance of jobs in the DMV area. Cybersecurity is lacking. There's not enough people to fill these roles. So there is an abundance of jobs, that are open. Not just, I'm not going to say that for me, but there are a bunch of other good companies out there that want to hire some really solid people. And then, leverage your guard benefits as much as you can while you're in, and don't waste your time. Right? That's the biggest thing, is like, waste of time. Like I was in for our MAE 5, and I had I was already halfway through my bachelor's degree, getting paid for by the guard. Right? There's a bunch of different guard benefits at the state level. Right? There's the state tuition waiver. There's Ignite now for soldiers. There's about $4,000 of money you can receive if you want to take certifications or classes. And that's not just for enlisted people. That's also for officers. So make sure you help yourself while you're helping the organization. And then once you feel like you're good, make sure you help people in the organization to help themselves.
Great advice, man. You should be a recruiter for the Guard. By the way, have you been able to see any like partnerships with the Guard in either like
No,
other stuff
we
that you're
just
doing?
try to see our gray area. Like I mean, I don't. There's so many. There, not gonna say so many, but in the event that something bad happens or goes wrong, I don't want to have to talk to no JAG officers, right? I don't. I'd rather say now if I wasn't the business owner anymore, or like in 15 years I sold the company or something like that, I wouldn't have to. I really wouldn't be worried about talking or partnering with the Guard or collabing or something like that. But like if the Florida now if the Florida Guard came and say, hey, we want to collab or something, I'll probably be open to that, but not the state that I work in as a soldier. Yeah,
Right.
probably
Probably
won't do.
awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dondre. It's been awesome. We'll get all those links that you mentioned, the show notes and in the captions. And then if you're out there and you use LinkedIn, which you probably should. I can do a whole episode just on LinkedIn. Hit up Dondre Lawson, and I'm sure he'll be a good resource if you ever need him.
I'd
All
like
right.
to
Thanks,
come out.
Dondre. Appreciate it, man.